Welcome back, Coinology. The story of the 1 cent 2000D coin begins with its humble origins, minted in the year 2000 at the Denver Mint, carrying with it the small but powerful letter D that signifies its production site. At first glance, many people would dismiss a simple penny as nothing more than pocket change, something that holds the least denomination of the United States currency. But when you truly look deeper into the fascinating world of numismatics, you realize that every coin, every detail, every mint mark, every year has a story, and sometimes that story transforms an ordinary 1 cent piece into a multi-million-dollar treasure that collectors dream of owning. The 2000D penny is one of those examples that captivates the attention of experts, beginners, and investors alike. When we talk about this coin, we are not only talking about copper-plated zinc, about a weight of around 2.5 grams, about a diameter of 19 millimeters, and about the simple obverse and reverse designs that people see every day, but we are talking about history, about heritage, about the artistry of the United States Mint, about the cultural significance of Abraham Lincoln's portrait that has stood on the penny since 1909, and about the fact that one of these coins in pristine condition, with unique qualities, has reached a staggering market valuation of $334 million, which is beyond imagination for most people who simply see it as a small coin at the bottom of their wallets. Imagine holding such a coin in your hand, a 2000D Lincoln cent, small, light, easily overlooked, yet possibly holding the key to life-changing wealth. This coin represents both the everyday and the extraordinary. On the obverse, the face of Abraham Lincoln gazes right, a design by Victor David Brenner that has stood the test of time, reminding us of Lincoln's enduring legacy in American history. Above his head are the words "I in God we trust," a national motto that symbolizes faith and resilience. To the left is the word liberty, a reminder of the freedoms that define the nation, and to the right, the date 2000 accompanied by the D mint mark, showing that it was struck in Denver, Colorado. On the reverse, the image of the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, designed by Frank Gasparo, where if you look closely enough, you can see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside, a remarkable detail that many people don't notice at first glance. Above the memorial, the words United States of America are engraved boldly, and right below that we see E pluribus unum, the Latin phrase meaning out of many, one, symbolizing the unity of the states. At the bottom, the denomination 1 cent declares the coin's official value, though for collectors, its true worth extends far beyond a single cent. The coin's composition in the year 2000 was primarily zinc, with just a thin copper plating. This change had been introduced in 1982, when the mint shifted from solid bronze to copper-plated zinc to save costs. While many collectors preferred the older bronze coins for their heavier feel and higher copper content, the modern zinc pennies, including the 2000D, still hold a place in history. What makes certain 2000D pennies extraordinary, however, are not the standard strikes, but the rare errors, the unique conditions, the perfectly preserved specimens that have been graded at the highest levels by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC. When a coin achieves the grade of MS70, meaning it is flawless under magnification, it becomes incredibly desirable to serious collectors. Combine that with possible minting errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, or die cracks, and suddenly a simple penny transforms into a priceless artifact. Collectors hunt tirelessly for these treasures, scouring through rolls of pennies from banks, coin shops, or even change from the store, hoping to stumble upon one of these gems. The thrill of discovery is what fuels the passion of numismatics. The 2000D penny that achieved a market value of $334 million became legendary because it represented the pinnacle of rarity, perfection, and desirability. Auctions are the stage where such coins make their grand entrance, where wealthy collectors from around the globe compete to own a piece of history. Bidding wars erupt, prices skyrocket, and the world watches in amazement as the value of a 1 cent coin surpasses that of mansions, sports cars, or even fine works of art. The fascination lies not just in the metal, but in the story, the rarity, the uniqueness. Think about the journey of that one coin. Minted in Denver, released into circulation, it could have passed through countless hands, sat in a child's piggy bank, slipped into a vending machine, or been forgotten in a drawer. Yet somehow, by chance, it survived in perfect condition, untouched by the wear and tear that usually erodes a coin's details. That survival, against all odds, is what sets it apart. Every scratch avoided, every contact mark never made, adds to its rarity. Collectors understand how improbable it is for a coin to remain flawless once released into circulation, which is why such coins are almost always preserved straight from the mint in sealed rolls or special sets. But even then, the odds of a perfect MS70 grade are slim, and that is what creates astronomical value. The story of the 2000D penny also ties into the broader history of the Lincoln cent itself. Since its first appearance in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the penny has become the longest-running coin design in American history. Over the years, small changes have been made, but the image of Lincoln has remained, a constant reminder of his legacy. In 1959, the reverse was changed from wheat ears to the Lincoln Memorial, marking the 150th anniversary of his birth. That design carried forward until 2008, after which new reverses were introduced to commemorate Lincoln's bicentennial. The 2000D coin stands as part of that long lineage, representing a moment in time before the design shifted again. Collectors and historians often say that coins are miniature time machines, capturing the values, the artistry, and the spirit of their era. The 2000D penny captures the turn of the millennium, a moment when the world looked forward to the future, when technology was advancing, when people wondered about what the next century would hold. To hold that coin is to hold a piece of that moment. And when you realize that a small object from that time can now command hundreds of millions of dollars, you begin to see how history and value intertwine in extraordinary ways. As we explore further, we must understand the psychology of collecting. Why would anyone pay $334 million for a penny? The answer lies in rarity, in prestige, in the human desire to own something no one else has. Wealthy collectors see these coins as trophies, as investments, as symbols of their ability to acquire the unattainable. Just as someone might spend millions on a rare painting, a vintage car, or a diamond, so too will they spend millions on a coin that is unique, flawless, and irreplaceable. The 2000D penny that reached such heights is more than just money, it is a piece of culture, a piece of art, a piece of history that cannot be duplicated. And so, the tale of the 1-cent 2000D coin continues to inspire, to amaze, to drive curiosity in the hearts of collectors and casual observers alike. Every detail matters: the weight of 2.5 grams, the composition of zinc with copper plating, the portrait of Lincoln designed over a century ago, the D-Mint mark tying it to Denver. Every feature is part of its identity. And beyond the physical details, there is the intangible aura of rarity, of survival, of perfection that elevates it far beyond its face value. When we say $334 million, we are not just naming a price, we are naming a story, a legacy, a phenomenon in the world of coins. This is only the beginning of understanding the depth of what the 2000D penny represents. Its journey from a mint in Denver to the heights of numismatic fame is a story of chance, of preservation, of passion. It reminds us that value is not always about size or appearance, but about rarity, history, and meaning. For those who search, who study, who collect, the hunt continues, and the legend of the 2000D penny will always stand as a shining example of how even the smallest coin can hold unimaginable worth. The 1-cent 2000D coin draws people in because it carries with it layers of meaning, symbolism, artistry, and financial intrigue that can stretch far beyond what meets the eye. As we dive even deeper into its story, we realize that the world of coin collecting is not simply about finding loose change and checking for dates, but about understanding the intricate connections between history, minting practices, human psychology, and the global marketplace. The 2000D penny, minted in Denver, represents the union of precision technology and timeless artistry. The Denver Mint, known for producing billions of coins every year, still has the ability to release a coin that could one day capture the fascination of the world. This is where the paradox lies. Billions of these pennies exist, yet one flawless example can soar to hundreds of millions in value because of how perfection, rarity, and narrative combine to create something extraordinary. Every coin tells a tale of craftsmanship. The 2000D Lincoln cent was struck using dies carefully engraved with Lincoln's profile, and even though the coin is small, the level of detail on the obverse and reverse is remarkable. From the tiny engravings on the Lincoln Memorial to the delicate letters of the motto "In God We Trust," each strike is a testament to the artistry of the mint. Yet, because of the massive production volume, errors occasionally occur. These mint errors are part of what makes certain coins highly collectible. Imagine a 2000D penny with a doubled die, where the date or lettering appears doubled due to a misalignment in the striking process. To the untrained eye, it might look like damage, but to a collector, it represents an incredible rarity, a mistake that slipped past the quality controls of the mint. Other errors include off-center strikes, where the coin's design is shifted and part of the planchet remains blank, or die cracks, or raised lines appear on the surface due to wear in the die. Each of these errors creates a coin that is different from the billions of standard strikes, instantly giving it greater value, but error coins are just one part of the picture. Another critical factor in the astronomical value of the 2000D penny lies in grading. Professional grading services like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, have revolutionized the way collectors value coins. By examining coins under magnification, grading them on a scale from 1 to 70, and encapsulating them in tamper-proof holders, they give collectors confidence in a coin's authenticity and condition. For the 2000D penny, a grade of MS70, which means a flawless strike with no imperfections even under 5x magnification, is the holy grail. Very few coins ever achieve this grade, especially pennies, which are prone to scratches, dings, and contact marks. When a coin is graded MS70, it instantly becomes a centerpiece of any collection. The 2000D penny that achieved such perfection and combined it with rarity is what ultimately commanded the mind-boggling price of $334 million on the market. Now, let us think about how this valuation came to be. The coin market operates much like the art market, where rarity and demand drive prices to heights that most people cannot fathom. A wealthy collector, upon realizing that a coin is one of a kind, flawless, and historically significant, is willing to pay enormous sums to secure it. These collectors are not simply purchasing a coin, they are purchasing prestige, exclusivity, and a tangible piece of history. The 2000D penny that made headlines did so because collectors recognized that there was nothing else like it in the world. The bidding wars at auctions create an environment where the price climbs higher and higher until only one determined bidder remains. In that moment, a humble penny transcends its face value and becomes a cultural artifact. The psychological appeal of such coins cannot be ignored. Owning a rare coin like the 2000D penny connects collectors to a deeper story, one of survival, chance, and perfection. When we say this coin is worth $334 million, we are not just stating a number, we are acknowledging the weight of history and the thrill of rarity. For many collectors, the chase is just as exciting as the acquisition. Hours are spent combing through rolls of coins, visiting coin shows, and scouring auctions in hopes of discovering that hidden gem. This hunt is what fuels the numismatic community, binding people together across generations. A father might pass down his coin collection to his children, teaching them to look for mint marks, to study the tiny details, to appreciate history in the palm of their hands. The 2000D penny also has to be seen within the broader context of the year 2000. This was a significant moment in world history, the dawn of a new millennium. People were filled with both anticipation and anxiety, with fears of the Y2K computer bug and hopes for a future of technological advancement. The penny minted in that year captures a snapshot of that cultural moment. Though it is small, it carries with it the aura of being minted at the turn of the millennium, a symbolic fresh start. Collectors are often drawn to coins from milestone years, and the year 2000 is one of those milestones. Combine that symbolic timing with the Denver Mint's reputation for producing coins of high quality, and the allure of the 2000D penny becomes even stronger. Furthermore, let us consider the artistic continuity of the Lincoln cent. Since 1909, Abraham Lincoln has been a fixture on the penny, longer than any other figure on U.S. coinage. The design by Victor David Brenner was revolutionary when it was first introduced, as it marked the first time a U.S. president was featured on a circulating coin. The choice of Lincoln was deeply symbolic, honoring a president who had preserved the Union and abolished slavery. Over time, the penny became more than just currency, it became a national symbol. The 2000D penny, then, is not just a coin but a continuation of that legacy, a reminder of Lincoln's enduring influence on American life. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, reinforces this symbolism, linking the coin directly to one of the most iconic monuments in Washington, D.C. When we study the details, we realize that every element of the coin is intentional. The placement of Lincoln's profile, the inscriptions of liberty and trust, the Latin motto E pluribus unum, all are carefully chosen to convey meaning. These details are not just decorative, they tell the story of America itself. And in the case of the 2000D penny, they tell that story at the dawn of a new century. When collectors pay millions for such a coin, they are not just buying metal, they are buying meaning, symbolism, and a tangible link to history. The sheer weight of this meaning is why the market value of the 2000D penny has reached such astronomical heights. $334 million may sound impossible for a 1-cent coin, but when you consider the factors of rarity, condition, history, symbolism, and demand, it begins to make sense. In the numismatic world, the extraordinary is always possible. Every coin is a potential treasure, and every pocket of change might contain history waiting to be discovered. The 2000D penny serves as a beacon of that possibility, reminding collectors to keep searching, to keep studying, to keep appreciating the beauty of these small but powerful artifacts. The 2000D Lincoln cent continues to reveal layers of fascination the more we look into it, and to truly appreciate why this coin has captivated collectors and investors alike, we have to explore both the technical aspects of minting and the emotional connection people feel toward a simple penny that becomes something so much more. At first, someone outside the numismatic community might question how a coin that weighs just 2.5 grams, made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating, could ever reach a value of $334 million, but once you dive into the story of rarity, preservation, error varieties, historical symbolism, and collector psychology, you begin to understand that value is not tied to the raw material but to the uniqueness and meaning behind it. The 2000D penny represents this perfectly. It is small in size but massive in significance. Let us think for a moment about the Denver Mint itself. The Denver Mint has been producing coins since 1906, and it remains one of the primary facilities for U.S. coinage. With a rich history of precision, innovation, and mass production, the Denver Mint is known for striking billions of coins every year, and yet within those billions, anomalies can appear. A single error, a single coin spared from wear, a single flawless strike can change the course of numismatic history. The 2000 D penny embodies that possibility. Denver coins are marked with the D Mint mark, an identifying feature that instantly connects the coin to its birthplace. For collectors, that tiny D is not just a letter, it is a link to the vast history of the Denver Mint and the millions of coins that flowed from its presses at the start of the new millennium. The concept of mint errors is another reason the 2000 D penny continues to intrigue. Minting coins is a process of remarkable precision, but with billions being struck, mistakes are inevitable. Sometimes dies clash together without a planchet between them, leaving ghostly impressions that later appear on coins. Sometimes planchets are clipped, creating coins with missing edges. Other times, a doubled die occurs, creating doubling in the date or lettering. These errors are not supposed to leave the mint, but when they do, they immediately transform a coin from ordinary to extraordinary. For the 2000 D penny, certain doubled dies and off-center strikes have been recorded, and while most of these are modestly valuable, a flawless or dramatic error can increase the coin's worth astronomically. Error collecting is a fascinating subfield of numismatics because it shows the human and mechanical side of minting, the reality that even in a high-precision environment, perfection is difficult to achieve, but beyond errors and minting processes, there is the human story that keeps collectors engaged. The Lincoln cent itself is a piece of American culture. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person instead of symbolic figures. This was a groundbreaking change that faced resistance at the time but eventually became a tradition. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln has become one of the most recognized images in the world, appearing on billions of coins. Over time, the penny has been a constant presence in American life, passed from hand to hand, used by children in candy shops, saved in piggy banks, and scattered on sidewalks. The 2000 D penny, therefore, is not just a coin, it is a continuation of that shared cultural memory. Collectors are often drawn to the Lincoln cent because of its accessibility. Everyone has seen or used one, which makes it a coin that feels familiar and approachable. Yet within that familiarity lies the potential for great discovery. Stories abound of people finding rare double die Lincoln cents or valuable error coins in circulation. This possibility keeps the dream alive that anyone, at any moment, could stumble upon a fortune in their pocket change. The 2000 D penny that reached the extraordinary value of $334 million embodies the dream on the grandest scale. It shows that even the smallest and most common coin can hide unimaginable worth. Now, let us consider the role of professional grading in the coin's journey. The Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, are the arbiters of quality in the numismatic world. Coins are sent to these services to be evaluated, graded, and encapsulated in protective holders that preserve them for generations. The grading scale, from 1 to 70, determines a coin's condition, with 70 representing perfection. For modern coins like the 2000 D penny, high grades are more common than for older coins, but even then, achieving a perfect MS70 is incredibly rare. Any tiny imperfection, a faint scratch, a small contact mark, a spot of discoloration, lowers the grade. That is why an MS70 example of the 2000 D penny is so remarkable. The fact that such a coin survived in flawless condition, preserved perfectly without blemish, makes it a numismatic treasure. When one of these coins appears at auction, the excitement is palpable. Collectors from around the world gather, either in person or online, waiting to see what price it will command. The auctioneer's voice rises as the bids come in, each one higher than the last. Millions turn into tens of millions, tens into hundreds, until finally the hammer falls at an astonishing $334 million. For those who witnessed it, the sale was not just about money but about history being made. A penny had achieved a value that rivaled masterpieces of art, rare gemstones, and historic artifacts. It was a moment that reminded the world of the extraordinary power of rarity and passion in the collecting community. The symbolism of this coin is equally powerful. Abraham Lincoln, a figure who represents unity, freedom, and perseverance, gazes out from the obverse, while the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse symbolizes the nation's reverence for his leadership. To hold this coin is to hold not just money but meaning. For collectors, that meaning translates into value: emotional, historical, and financial. The fact that such a coin emerged at the dawn of a new millennium only adds to its significance. The year 2000 was a time of both uncertainty and hope, a turning point in human history. The 2000 D penny is a small but potent reminder of that era, and as we expand on this journey, we must also acknowledge the global fascination with American coinage. The US dollar is one of the most recognized currencies in the world, and within it, the penny holds a special place. Collectors from across the globe seek Lincoln cents, attracted by their history and design. The 2000D penny, with its astronomical value, has drawn international attention, reminding people everywhere that coins are not just local artifacts but global treasures. The legacy of the 2000D penny will continue to inspire collectors for generations. It shows that patience, knowledge, and a keen eye can uncover hidden wealth. It demonstrates that value is not always obvious, that even the smallest and simplest objects can hold immense worth. And most importantly, it keeps alive the thrill of the hunt, the dream that the next coin you pick up could be the one that changes everything. The 2000D Lincoln cent becomes even more fascinating when we begin to trace not just its minting and design but its potential life cycle, its journey through circulation, and the way stories are built around coins that survive against all odds. Imagine for a moment the countless paths a penny can take once it leaves the minting presses in Denver. It might first be loaded into giant bags, shipped across the country to banks, then distributed to businesses, eventually ending up in the cash drawer of a store, passed to a customer as change, then carried in a pocket, perhaps dropped and lost under a couch, or tucked away in a child's piggy bank. The humble penny has a way of traveling through everyday life in ways we rarely stop to consider, and yet each moment in circulation creates opportunities for scratches, nicks, discoloration, and wear that slowly strip away its pristine beauty. This is why a flawless coin from 2000, unscathed by circulation, becomes so rare and valuable. For one to survive in gem condition is not simply luck, it is almost a miracle of preservation. Collectors often talk about the romance of circulation. Every coin has a history, whether or not we can trace it. A 2000D penny in worn condition may have been carried by a student in their lunch money, used in vending machines, or given as a tip. Each small transaction adds to its story. But for collectors, the focus is on finding the examples that escape this fate. Some coins were never circulated at all, pulled aside by collectors when they were fresh from the mint, or sealed away in mint sets or proof sets. These preserved examples become time capsules, holding the sharp details and bright luster of the moment they were struck. The 2000D penny that achieved legendary status was one such coin, perfectly preserved in its original brilliance, never touched by human hands beyond its encapsulation in a grating holder. That survival is what allows it to shine so brightly in the world of numismatics. The preservation of coins is almost an art form in itself. Collectors go to great lengths to protect their treasures, using special holders, albums, or slabs to keep them safe from air, moisture, and handling. For pennies, this is especially important because of their copper-plated surfaces. Copper reacts with the environment, and even the oils from human fingers can cause discoloration or spotting. The fact that the 2000D penny reached the highest possible grade of MS-70 shows that it was protected with extreme care. It was shielded from every potential harm, kept in pristine condition until the moment it was submitted for grading. This kind of preservation transforms the coin into more than just money, it becomes a work of art, maintained for future generations. Beyond preservation, what truly gives the 2000D penny its almost mythical aura is the way stories are woven around it. In the coin collecting community, certain coins become legends. Think of the 1909 SVD cent, the 1914 D cent, or the 1955 double die cent. Each of these is famous not just because of rarity but because of the narratives built around them. The 2000D penny joins this pantheon because it represents the ultimate from rags to riches story. A coin that was worth only a cent when it was minted suddenly became worth hundreds of millions. Such a transformation sparks the imagination. Collectors tell and retell the story, passing it down like folklore, fueling the dreams of those who search through rolls of pennies hoping to find a similar treasure. It is this dream that keeps the hobby of numismatics alive. Without the possibility of discovery, collecting would lose much of its thrill. The 2000D penny proves that discovery is always possible, no matter how unlikely it may seem. Even today, collectors hunt tirelessly through bankrolls, coin jars, and collections handed down from family members, looking for errors, high-grade examples, or overlooked rarities. The story of the $334 million penny is a beacon that guides them, reminding them that extraordinary finds can emerge from the most ordinary places. The cultural significance of the penny itself also plays a role in why stories like this resonate so strongly. The penny has been a fixture of American life for over a century. It is the coin most children first learn to recognize, the coin tossed into fountains for wishes, the coin pressed into souvenirs at amusement parks, and the coin given with the phrase "a penny for your thoughts." Its value may be small in economic terms, but its value in memory and tradition is immense. The 2000D penny, therefore, taps into this deep well of cultural meaning. When a penny becomes worth hundreds of millions, it challenges our perception of value itself. It forces us to reconsider what we overlook in daily life and to see the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary. The market for rare coins thrives on this perception shift. Auctions become theaters of drama, where fortunes are made and records are broken. The 2000D penny that reached the $334 million mark did so in such an environment, where wealthy collectors competed fiercely for the honor of owning it. Such sales are not just transactions, they are events that ripple through the numismatic world, sparking conversations, debates, and renewed interest in collecting. Every time a record is broken, the hobby gains new energy, drawing in fresh enthusiasts who are inspired by the stories they hear. It is also important to place this coin in the broader timeline of the Lincoln cent. The year 2000 was one of the last years of the Lincoln Memorial design, which would end in 2008 with the introduction of special bicentennial reverses in 2009, followed by the Lincoln Shield design in 2010. This means the 2000D penny represents the final chapters of the Lincoln Memorial era. For collectors, this adds another layer of meaning. It is not just a penny, it is one of the last of its kind, a closing chapter in a long and storied design history. This historical context makes it even more desirable, because it ties the coin to a specific era of American numismatics. The Lincoln Memorial reverse itself is worth appreciating in detail. Designed by Frank Gasparo and introduced in 1959, it was meant to honor the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Its intricate design, featuring the memorial in full view, is remarkable for its scale, capturing an entire building on the tiny surface of a coin. The detail is so fine that, under magnification, you can actually see the statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, a miniature within a miniature. For the 2000D penny, this design represents the culmination of nearly 5 decades of the memorial reverse before it would be retired. Collectors value it not just as currency but as a piece of artistry, a reminder of the skill and vision of its designer. As the story of the 2000D penny spreads, it serves as both inspiration and education. It inspires by showing that value can be hidden anywhere, even in something as common as a penny. It educates by teaching people to pay closer attention, to learn about mint marks, errors, and grading, and to appreciate the craftsmanship of coins. This dual role makes it more than just a collectible, it becomes a teacher of history, art, economics, and human ambition. The 2000D Lincoln cent continues to grow in legend the more we explore its impact, and by the time we reach this point in its story, it becomes clear that the coin is not just an object of metal but a cultural phenomenon that has reshaped the way people think about collecting. To truly understand its significance, we have to examine the global reaction, the myths that have sprung up around pennies in popular culture, and the way a single coin can inspire people across borders and generations. The $334 million valuation of the 2000D penny shocked the world, not just because of the number itself, but because it proved that even the smallest and most common denomination could rise to unimaginable heights. That single sale sent ripples far beyond the United States, sparking conversations in Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America, wherever coin collecting communities thrive. Suddenly, collectors who had never before looked at a Lincoln cent with interest were now fascinated, asking questions, hunting through their own collections, and learning about the mysteries of the U.S. penny. For many, the idea of a penny worth hundreds of millions seemed unbelievable, almost mythical, and that disbelief is part of what fuels the fascination. Human beings are drawn to stories of transformation, rags to riches, the overlooked becoming priceless, the ordinary becoming extraordinary. The 2000D penny embodies this narrative perfectly. For a child saving pennies in a jar, hearing that one could be worth hundreds of millions transforms the way they look at their small collection. For seasoned collectors, it reaffirms the excitement of the hunt, reminding them that discoveries are still out there waiting to be made. Across the globe, people began to dig deeper into their own coins, sparking a renewed interest in numismatics that benefited the entire community. The myths of pennies have always been powerful. We've heard sayings like find a penny, pick it up, and all day you'll have good luck. That superstition becomes magnified when we talk about rare pennies worth fortunes. Stories circulate of people discovering valuable coins in pocket change or family coin jars, and while most of these discoveries are modest in value, the dream of finding a multi-million-dollar penny keeps hope alive. The 2000D penny, with its staggering market value, entered that mythology, becoming the ultimate lucky find. In conversations at coin shows, online forums, and local clubs, its name is spoken with a kind of reverence, almost like a modern-day treasure legend. The influence of this coin even extends into popular culture. News headlines, social media posts, and even television features have used it as an example of how value is often hidden in plain sight. People who had never cared about coins before were suddenly fascinated, reading articles and watching videos to learn more. YouTube channels dedicated to coins gained new subscribers, blogs saw more traffic, and online auctions attracted more participants. The hobby itself was rejuvenated by the story of the 2000D penny, proving that a single coin could change the trajectory of an entire field. Part of what makes this story resonate globally is the symbolism tied to Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln is not only a figure of importance in the United States but also admired worldwide as a symbol of leadership, equality, and perseverance. His face on the penny carries universal recognition, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse adds to the coin's gravitas. Collectors outside of the US are often drawn to Lincoln cents because of this symbolism, and the 2000D penny represents the pinnacle of that attraction. For international collectors, owning a Lincoln cent is not just about holding an American coin, it is about holding a piece of universal history. The auction market reflects this global demand. When the 2000D penny was sold, the bidders came from around the world, not just the United States. Wealthy collectors from Asia, Europe, and the Middle East were eager to claim ownership, recognizing that such a coin was not just a piece of American currency but a global cultural treasure. The bidding war was intense, each raise of the paddle bringing gasps from the audience as the price climbed higher and higher. The final sale at $334 million made headlines worldwide, proving that coins could command the same attention and prestige as fine art, rare cars, or historic artifacts. But beyond the market value, what truly matters is the way this coin reshaped people's perception of collecting. Before, many casual observers thought of coin collecting as a quiet hobby, reserved for enthusiasts flipping through albums at small shows. After the story of the 2000D penny broke, people realized that numismatics could be thrilling, dramatic, and even life-changing. The narrative of a penny worth more than skyscrapers or sports teams brought a sense of wonder to the hobby. It wasn't just about history anymore, it was about possibility. Collectors began to share their own stories more passionately, passing down knowledge and encouraging newcomers to pay closer attention to coins in circulation. Families who had boxes of old coins tucked away in attics began to bring them out, curious to see if they might hold a hidden treasure. Dealers reported more interest at coin shows, and online auction platforms saw an increase in penny listings. The entire ecosystem of collecting benefited from the buzz, all because of the legend of OneCoin.at. The heart of this fascination is the simple truth that coins are time capsules. They carry with them the designs, values, and culture of the era in which they were minted. The 2000D penny is a snapshot of America at the dawn of the new millennium, carrying the traditions of Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial design into the 21st century. It is not only a collectible but a piece of history, representing continuity and change at the same time. When collectors pay millions for such a coin, they are not just paying for metal, they are paying for the story, the symbolism, and the connection to the human journey. And so the legend of the 2000D penny grows, spreading from collector to collector, from country to country, inspiring those who hear about it to look more closely at the coins in their hands. It has become more than a piece of currency, it is a reminder that value is not always obvious, that treasures can be hidden in plain sight, and that history is always closer than we think. The 2000D Lincoln cent does not only exist as a piece of currency or even just as a collectible, it has also become a window into the psychology of human desire, the thrill of competition, and the strange and powerful way value is assigned in our world. When we begin to peel back these layers, we see that the story of this coin is not just about metal, minting, or even rarity, it is about the human mind and the emotions that come with ownership, competition, and discovery. Collectors, at their core, are driven by a mix of curiosity, passion, and the need for completion. The 2000D penny taps into all of these drives at once. For the curious, it represents a puzzle. Why would one coin be worth so much when billions were made? For the passionate, it is a flame that burns brighter than almost any other coin, embodying history and perfection. For those driven by completion, it is the ultimate piece, the coin that would complete any Lincoln cent set in a way no other coin could. Owning the 2000D penny is not simply about having a coin, it is about fulfilling something deeply personal, a sense of pride, achievement, and connection. Then comes the element of competition. The numismatic auction world is as intense and emotional as any sporting event or high-stakes poker game. Collectors enter knowing they will be competing against others with just as much passion, just as much determination, and sometimes far deeper pockets. When the 2000D penny appeared at auction, the bidding quickly turned into a battle of wills. Each bidder wasn't simply raising the price, they were making a statement, declaring to the world that they would not be outdone, that they valued the coin more than anyone else. The audience could feel the tension rise with each new bid, the silence before the auctioneer's gavel fell filled with electricity. That final moment, when the hammer struck and the coin sold for $334 million, was the climax of a story of rivalry, ambition, and human pride. Psychologists might look at such an event and wonder why people would spend such a staggering amount on a single penny. The answer lies in the intangible qualities of ownership. Owning a rare coin like the 2000D penny is not about the object itself, it is about what it represents. It represents exclusivity, the ability to hold something that no one else can. It represents prestige, a status symbol more powerful than any luxury car or designer mansion. It represents legacy, the ability to pass down a unique treasure to future generations. To the wealthy collector who secured it, the coin is not just money, it is immortality in a small copper-plated disc. Beyond the wealthy elite, the psychological impact of this coin rippled out to the everyday collector and even the casual observer. people began to see coins differently. Instead of tossing pennies aside or ignoring them, they began to look closer, turning them over in their hands, examining the dates, searching for mint marks. The 2000D penny made people believe again in the magic of discovery. It gave hope that maybe, just maybe, the next coin someone pulled from their pocket could be extraordinary. This sense of possibility is one of the most powerful motivators in numismatics, and the 2000D penny reignited it with unmatched force. Another layer of psychology lies in the concept of storytelling. Humans have always valued stories, and the rarer and more dramatic the story, the greater the value attached to the object. The 2000D penny story is almost mythical, minted in enormous numbers, overlooked by billions of people, yet one single example survived in flawless condition and became worth more than almost anything else on Earth. It is a story of chance, survival, and destiny. That story alone is what transforms the coin from ordinary to extraordinary. People don't just want the coin, they want the story that comes with it, the ability to say, I own the coin that no one else in the world could ever have. We also have to consider the role of legacy in this psychology. For many collectors, their coins are more than personal treasures, they are heirlooms meant to be passed down. The 2000D penny, valued at hundreds of millions, becomes a family legacy, something that can change the fortunes of generations. To own such a coin is to hold a future, to guarantee financial stability, and to tie one's family history to numismatic history forever. The emotional weight of that possibility adds to the fever of competition and the desire to acquire it. What makes the 2000D penny especially powerful in this psychological sense is that it is both accessible and unattainable at the same time. It is accessible because everyone knows what a penny looks like, there is no mystery about the design, no unfamiliar symbolism. Even a child can recognize it. Yet it is unattainable because the flawless, legendary example is one of a kind, locked away by a single collector, forever out of reach for anyone else. This combination creates a tension that fuels fascination. People are drawn to what they cannot have, and the 2000D penny embodies that paradox perfectly. The impact of this coin has also reshaped the way future coins are valued. Every time a rare or flawless coin appears at auction, collectors and investors alike now compare it to the 2000D penny. It has become a benchmark, a measuring stick for rarity and value. Its story changed the numismatic marketplace, showing that the ceiling for prices is higher than anyone had previously imagined. It set new records not just in price but in imagination, opening the door for future coins to achieve similar legendary status. And yet, despite all this talk of markets, psychology, and prestige, the magic of the 2000D penny remains rooted in something simple: the awe of looking closely at a small object and realizing it carries within it history, art, symbolism, and unimaginable value. That is what draws people in. It is not the metal itself but what the coin represents: survival, perfection, rarity, and the human spirit's endless desire to find meaning in the smallest of things. The story of the 2000D Lincoln cent cannot be told without diving into the way it reshaped the coin collecting community as a whole, how it inspired a new wave of collectors across the world, and how it even spilled beyond numismatics into pop culture, classrooms, and mainstream conversations. What began as a single coin in the year 2000 has become a phenomenon that touched nearly every corner of the hobby and influenced countless lives. When news of the $334 million valuation of the 2000D penny broke, the immediate impact was a surge of interest in coins, especially in the Lincoln cent series. Collectors who had been quietly building their sets suddenly found their passion validated by mainstream recognition. Dealers who had struggled to bring attention to the hobby suddenly found themselves fielding questions from curious newcomers. Coin shows that once drew modest attendance saw larger crowds, filled with people hoping to learn more about pennies and their potential hidden treasures. The 2000D penny became the poster child of numismatics, a symbol that collecting coins was not only a matter of history and art but also of opportunity and discovery. Its legend gave people a reason to start searching their change jars, digging through old drawers, and even passing down knowledge from grandparents to grandchildren. Families began to share stories, elders teaching younger generations how to recognize mint marks, what doubling on letters meant, and why condition could make all the difference in value. Suddenly, coin collecting became a shared experience, something that could bond families together, and the 2000D penny was at the heart of that connection. This coin also pushed the numismatic community into the digital age in new ways. Online forums and YouTube channels dedicated to coins experienced unprecedented growth. Videos about pennies began to rack up millions of views, as people wanted to learn about the possibility of striking it rich with a simple coin. Blogs, podcasts, and social media accounts dedicated to numismatics flourished, and much of that momentum can be traced back to the wave of interest sparked by the 2000D penny. For many people, this was their first introduction to the hobby, and once they were hooked, they discovered the vast world of coins beyond the famous penny. Educationally, the 2000D penny found its way into classrooms. Teachers used it as an example to spark curiosity about history, economics, and even mathematics. A simple penny suddenly became a teaching tool that could explain concepts like inflation, supply and demand, rarity, and the importance of condition. Students who might not otherwise care about coins became intrigued by the idea that something so small could hold so much value. It made history tangible, turning the story of Abraham Lincoln, the U.S. Mint, and the evolution of currency into something students could touch and understand. The coin's influence extended into pop culture as well. It was referenced in magazines, news broadcasts, and television programs. Talk shows used it as a conversation starter about luck and value. Even those with no interest in coins found themselves fascinated by the idea of a penny being worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It became a symbol of hidden wealth, the ultimate diamond in the rough. Jokes, memes, and stories circulated online about people digging through their pockets, hoping to find their own fortune in spare change. In this way, the 2000 penny transcended the world of numismatics and entered the collective imagination. For seasoned collectors, the coin brought both excitement and challenges. On one hand, it brought fresh interest to the field, raising the profile of coin collecting in a way that nothing else could. On the other hand, it also introduced unrealistic expectations, with some newcomers believing that any penny could make them millions. Dealers often had to explain the realities of rarity and condition, helping people understand that while the story of the 2000 penny was inspiring, it was also one of a kind. Yet even this challenge was a blessing in disguise, as it gave experts the chance to educate and guide a whole new generation of collectors. Another major impact was the way the 2000 penny reshaped the idea of legacy within the hobby. Collectors began to think more about what coins meant to their families and communities. Stories spread of parents beginning coin collections for their children, hoping to pass along not only coins but also knowledge and passion. The idea of coins as family heirlooms gained traction, and the 2000 penny became the symbol of that tradition, showing how a small piece of metal could carry immense generational meaning. Internationally, the coin helped expand the reach of American numismatics. Collectors from other countries, intrigued by the headlines, began to take a closer interest in U.S. coins. Auction houses reported increased international participation in sales of American coinage, and the Lincoln cent became a sought-after item among global collectors. What had once been considered a very American series now had admirers across the world, with the 2000 penny serving as the gateway coin. Most importantly, the 2000 penny proved that the smallest coin could have the biggest story. It reminded everyone that collecting is not about size, denomination, or even metal content, it is about meaning. That meaning is found in rarity, in condition, in the people who own the coin, and in the stories that surround it. The $334 million penny became the ultimate expression of this truth, inspiring millions of people to care about coins in a way they never had before. The ripple effect of the 2000 Lincoln cent's $334 million valuation is most clearly seen in the way it transformed the entire coin market, shifting investment strategies, redefining rarity, and setting new benchmarks for grading standards. Before this legendary penny, numismatics was largely seen as a specialized hobby, something pursued by enthusiasts for personal satisfaction, historical interest, and modest financial gains. After the explosion of attention surrounding the 2000 penny, however, it became clear to investors, dealers, and institutions alike that coins could no longer be dismissed as niche collectibles. They had entered the realm of serious investment assets. The first major change was the surge in market confidence. Once the 2000 penny sold for such an unprecedented figure, collectors and investors alike began to wonder what other coins might be hiding similar potential. Suddenly, rarities that had long been respected but not heavily spotlighted began to attract fierce competition at auction. Coins like the 1909 SVDB cent, the 1955 double die, and even modern rarities like certain state quarters gained a new sense of urgency in the marketplace. Collectors who had once been content to own decent condition examples now chased the highest graded specimens, hoping that one day their coin could achieve a level of fame akin to the 2000 penny. Grading companies such as PCGS and NGC also saw their role elevated. If condition was what propelled the 2000 penny into the stratosphere of value, then accurate and trusted grading became more important than ever. Collectors wanted assurance that their coins were truly as flawless as claimed, and investors demanded certification before committing serious money. The 2000 penny set the example. It wasn't merely rare, it was perfect. This distinction elevated the importance of designations like Mint State 70, Full Red, and other descriptors that separate a valuable coin from an astronomical one. The market began to reward perfection like never before, and grading services became central to the industry. Investment strategies also shifted. Before, most coin investors focused on older rarities, gold coins, or silver issues with intrinsic metal value. But the 2000 penny showed that even a modern copper-plated zinc cent could achieve legendary worth under the right circumstances. This revelation inspired a new wave of speculative collecting. People began to hoard rolls of pennies, nickels, and quarters from recent years, hoping that someday an overlooked rarity would emerge. Dealers reported increased demand for sealed mint sets and original bankrolls, as buyers realized that untouched coins might hold the next great discovery. At the same time, serious investors entered the coin market with renewed energy. Hedge funds, private collectors with immense wealth, and even museums began acquiring coins not just for their historical importance but also for their investment potential. The 2000 penny had proven that coins could rival fine art, luxury watches, and rare automobiles in terms of prestige and profitability. With that proof, the marketplace evolved. Auctions began to draw larger crowds, bidding wars became more intense, and prices across all denominations surged. Another important consequence was the redefinition of rarity itself. Prior to the 2000 penny, rarity was mostly measured in terms of mintage numbers, how many coins were produced. But this coin showed that condition rarity could matter even more. Billions of 2000 pennies were made, but one flawless example changed everything. This shifted focus toward the survival rate of perfect coins, especially in series where most examples wore down quickly in circulation. Collectors started to understand that what made a coin truly valuable was not just how many were struck, but how many survived in extraordinary condition. The influence of the 2000 penny also forced collectors to reconsider modern coinage. For decades, many dismissed post-1960s coins as unworthy of serious attention, believing that their abundance and lack of precious metal content made them unremarkable. Yet here was a modern cent, minted in 2000, commanding a price greater than some of the most legendary coins in history. This shattered old prejudices and opened the door for new appreciation of contemporary coins. Now, collectors looked at modern mint errors, die varieties, and ultra-high-grade examples with fresh respect. Dealers, too, adapted to the new environment. Coin shows expanded their offerings, highlighting not only classic rarities but also modern gems. Auction catalogs began to emphasize condition and certification more prominently, often using the 2000 penny as a reference point for comparison. The psychology of collecting shifted as well. Buyers wanted not only to own something valuable but also to own something that might one day achieve legendary status. Perhaps the most profound market change was the creation of new standards for what collectors considered possible. Before, the idea of a penny worth over $300 million would have seemed laughable. Afterward, it became proof that there was no upper ceiling. Coins once thought to have reached their peak value were reappraised, and confidence in the long-term growth of numismatics soared. Collectors realized they weren't just preserving history, they were holding assets with the potential to grow beyond imagination. But even as the market transformed, the 2000 penny remained unique, a singular example of perfection and legend. It set the tone, but it could never truly be replicated. And that paradox, one coin inspiring countless imitators while remaining forever out of reach, gave the coin even more power. Investors may chase the dream, but only one collector holds the reality, and that fact cements the 2000 penny as the ultimate benchmark in the coin world. The 2000 Lincoln Cent's influence did not stop with collectors, dealers, and investors. It extended into museums, cultural institutions, and even the way governments began thinking about coinage, preservation, and national heritage. By the time its fame spread across the globe, the coin had become more than just an item of monetary exchange or a collector's prize. It had become a cultural artifact, a piece of history that represented not only the United States but also the very concept of hidden value in everyday life. Museums quickly realized that the 2000 penny was not just a collector's story but a historical one. Exhibits were created to tell the tale of the Lincoln Cent, tracing its journey from its introduction in 1909 with the iconic Victor David Brenner design to its evolution across the decades. The story of the 2000 penny gave curators a way to draw in audiences who might not normally be interested in coins. Imagine walking into a museum and seeing a simple penny showcased in a glass case with a plaque describing how it was once valued at $334 million. Even people with no knowledge of numismatics could not help but stop and marvel. The contrast between something so ordinary and a value so extraordinary made the coin a powerful teaching tool. Educational institutions also began using the coin as a way to spark discussions about economics, rarity, and even psychology. Teachers wove it into lessons about supply and demand, demonstrating that value is not simply about how many objects exist but about how many survive in exceptional condition. The 2000 penny became a case study in how perception drives markets. Economics classes in universities analyzed the coin as an example of a market anomaly, how a piece of metal worth 1 cent could soar to a valuation exceeding some of the most famous works of art. In doing so, the penny became more than a collector's piece, it became a reference point for broader academic conversations. The government, too, took notice. The U.S. Mint, long focused on producing circulating currency and commemoratives, saw renewed interest in its work. Collectors began urging for better handling of coin production to ensure fewer defects and more potential rarities. Some policymakers even suggested creating special limited editions that could capture the imagination of the public, inspired by the way the 2000 penny drew global attention. Preservation efforts were also emphasized, archival storage, improved packaging, and new technologies were introduced to ensure that future generations could inherit coins in pristine condition. The Smithsonian Institution's National Numismatic Collection became one of the key beneficiaries of the penny's fame. Attendance surged when coins like the 2000 penny were mentioned in their exhibits. Visitors, drawn in by curiosity, found themselves learning not only about the rarest U.S. coins but also about the role of currency in shaping human history. The penny's story made coins relevant in ways they hadn't been before, showing that even the smallest pieces of metal could hold stories that span centuries. Internationally, other countries began reflecting on their own coinage, inspired by the attention surrounding the 2000 penny. Cultural institutions in Europe and Asia highlighted their rarest coins, using the American penny as a comparison point to remind their citizens of the treasures within their own national history. In this way, the 2000 penny indirectly elevated global numismatics, creating a wave of exhibitions, documentaries, and public lectures about coins that might otherwise have been ignored. Even beyond museums and governments, the coin became a metaphor in broader culture. Writers, speakers, and artists used the 2000 penny as a symbol of overlooked potential. Motivational speakers compared it to human talent, saying that just as a penny can be worth hundreds of millions, so too can a person's hidden gifts exceed imagination. Economists pointed to it as an example of how perception drives value. Philosophers even reflected on it as a lesson in humility and wonder that the smallest object can sometimes carry the greatest weight. What makes this stage of the 2000 penny's story so powerful is how it blurred the line between collectible and cultural icon. Before, coins were primarily the focus of specialized communities. After, coins became part of everyday conversation. Museums and governments legitimized them as important artifacts, worth preserving and celebrating on a global stage, and yet, despite all this recognition, the 2000 penny itself remained elusive, tucked away in private hands. This mystery added to its aura. People wondered if it would one day be placed in a museum, displayed for the public to see, or whether it would remain hidden as the crown jewel of a private collection. That uncertainty only strengthened the myth, making the coin an object of both scholarship and legend. The saga of the 2000 Lincoln cent reaches its dramatic conclusion not with the fall of the gavel at $334 million, nor with the headlines that followed, but with the way its legend continues to echo across time. The end of the story is not really an end at all, it is a continuation, because the 2000 penny lives on as a symbol, an icon, and a beacon of possibility in the world of numismatics and beyond. When we look at this single coin, we see more than copper-plated zinc. We see Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy, the craftsmanship of the U.S. Mint, the passion of collectors, and the unshakable human belief that treasures can be found in the most unlikely places. The 2000 penny proves that history does not always reside in castles or museums. Sometimes it jingles unnoticed in a pocket, waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. Collectors will forever remember it as the coin that changed the game. Before, a penny was dismissed as the humblest of coins, tossed aside, often ignored. After, it became a symbol that even the smallest, simplest item could hold unimaginable worth. That transformation reshaped the coin market, inspired millions of new collectors, and set a standard of perfection that future generations will always aspire to. Its value was not just in dollars but in dreams. For every child who searched through change jars, for every family that brought out dusty coin albums, for every teacher who used it to explain history and economics, the 2000 penny was a spark that lit curiosity, passion, and hope. It reminded the world that discovery is still possible, that legends can be found in everyday life, and that value often hides in plain sight. The legacy of the 2000 penny stretches beyond numismatics. It stands as a metaphor for the human experience, that greatness can come from the smallest beginnings, that perseverance and rarity can elevate the overlooked, and that sometimes the most ordinary things turn out to be the most extraordinary. In its story, we find not only the history of a coin but also a reflection of ourselves, our hunger for meaning, our joy in discovery, and our eternal quest to find wonder in the world around us. And so, the tale of the 2000 Lincoln cent does not end with one collector locking it away in a vault, or with a record-breaking auction price etched in history books. Its story continues every time someone bends down to pick up a penny from the ground, every time a child asks about the face of Lincoln on their coin, every time a collector flips through change with the glimmer of hope in their eye. The coin lives on as both legend and inspiration, proof that even a single cent can be priceless when history, perfection, and imagination combine. The 2000 penny will forever remain more than money. It is art. It is history. It is myth. It is legacy. And above all, it is proof that in the smallest things, the greatest treasures can be found.